Chris Coulter. I'm one of the flight nurses at Air Care 4.
That would be you. Next.
My name's Nick Scott. I'm the A pilot, the lead pilot here at this base.
I'm Dan Barry. I'm one of the flight paramedics here.
Okay. How often do you guys have to respond to a call?
We get an average of 1 to 1.5 calls a day. So some days we could do 4 or more flights, and some days, the other days, we do no flights. You know, it just depends on what happens out there, and then whether the weather lets us go.
What requirements do you have to work here for the different jobs?
We do the paramedic requirements and then pilot.
The clinical ones are pretty much the same. You need to, whether you're a nurse or paramedic, 3 to 5 years of previous experience. But for nurses, it's what, ICU, intensive care, critical care, or ER?
It's either ER or ICU. They like you to have at least 3 to 5 years. The theory behind that is you have a paramedic on the transport that is well versed in working with the fire department and doing lots of high volume calls, people wrecking their cars. They're used to doing all sorts of big bad stuff in the field, and you put that together with a nurse who works in the ER or works in the ICU. They have a lot of experience in that arena. So we do about 50% scene calls and 50% inter-hospital transfers from one small hospital to a larger hospital. So you put both backgrounds together and we can pretty much handle anything. So.
Okay. How many people go on a call at once?
Usually 3. Usually just us 3. We'll have a paramedic, we'll have a nurse, and a pilot. Sometimes we'll have a ride-along that'll come with us during daylight hours.
Somebody in training.
Somebody that's in training, like a new hire, but that's usually it. Just 3 of us.
You know, he didn't answer the question.
Yeah, so you're probably aviation centric. So for the pilot requirements, there's FAA requirements and things like that, but above and beyond, like what the general requirements are, like a commercial instrument rating minimum, there's quite a bit of experience requirement. Most EMS guys probably average somewhere around 3,000 to 5,000 hours of flight experience before they begin this kind of job, and a lot of times it's a second career for military guys. We use a mix of IFR bases with complex aircraft with as much automation as you might see in like a G5 or something like that, like the Eurocopter that we have parked outside now, to simple VFR helicopters that are, you know, VFR only. I fly with night vision goggles. Part of the expectation is we can respond anywhere, so that means that we land at kind of like impromptu LZs. Some of them are pre-planned or pre-prepared, but a 100 by 100 foot spot in the mountains of West Virginia at 3 in the morning with marginal weather is like a norm for us. Mm-hmm. With some flights being composite, like partial IFR, partial VFR, and that kind of thing, just depending on the base and the capabilities.
Okay. What is it like living here, and like how long do you stay here? Like, do you guys go home, or when do you?
It's kind of like the firehouse. We all have our own little bunk room, I guess. We've got the pilot over here, the nurse, and the paramedic. It's kind of like the firehouse. Everybody just kind of hangs out in the general area here. We've got a little kitchen. We've got our mechanic area over here. They've got their own desk and set up. The paramedic and nurse have our medical desk over here. We do all our charting and education stuff over there. The pilot has all their computers in the pilot office with all their navigational maps and everything. And
Pilots are on 12-hour shifts. We're on 24-hour shifts.
Mm-hmm. And generally we work 7 days on, 7 days off, and they work a rotating shift. So you get to go home every night. It's one of the few, I guess there are other helicopter jobs you get to go home every night, but most of them are travel based. Yeah, it's one of the few you get to be home for. That's what drew me to it. I work for the same company offshore, and I get tired of being away from home half the year. So it makes it a lot better to be home.
And the last question is, what's the most interesting call you've had to respond to? Or can you talk about it or not? I don't know. It's confidential.
We could talk about it. I don't know. I don't know if you want to include it in your report or not. But let's see what's happened
Interesting.
recently.
Interesting. Did you go on the bison that gored somebody?
Yeah, there was. That wasn't me, but there was. I think you flew that one. Were you?
Mitch flew it.
There was a bison that got loose in Page County and was blocking the road, and a motorist decided that it would be a good idea to get out of the car and ask the bison to please move, and the bison refused and ended up goring him in the pelvis. So he lost, and the bison ran off, but we went and scooped him up and flew him off to, I think they went to UVA with him. But every day it's something different. There's always something interesting going on. We don't get the calls where someone fell and they can't get up and they go to the hospital and they get treated and released. We get the the big bad crazy stuff. So there aren't a lot of trauma centers that are accessible by ground in this area. There's a level 2 trauma center at Winchester, which still takes a little while to get to. UVA is a level 1 trauma center. Fairfax is a level 1 trauma center. Morgantown, West Virginia is a level 1 trauma center. So we do a lot of flying to different areas for bad trauma. So
Baltimore, we got shock trauma,
Yeah, we got
Hopkins,
a lot.
Richmond, we got MCD.
take Burns into DC, the MedStar and Children's. Yeah, it's not always the gruesome. We do see the interesting calls like that. A lot of it's pretty bad stuff.
Yeah, not everybody gets gored every day, but that's the one that comes to mind.
Yeah,
That's a good.
something in the field, it's because somebody had poor decision making.
Right.
Like getting out the car to talk to the buffalo or something like that.
Trying to light the gas grill while they're looking at it.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
big, that was last summer. That was
yeah, we
big.
had like
Let's-
3 in a row.
Let's throw some gasoline on the barbecue and see if we can get it going, which they
They
did
did. They
multiple
succeeded.
times.
Yeah, people
Things like
diving
that.
into shallow water last summer. We
Yeah.
had like 3 or 4 of those.
Yeah.
Guys that went to jump off cliffs and slipped and tumbled down them.
Some of the,
It's like just crazy stuff that,
that one was a quarry in Strasbourg. Were you with me on that one?
John was.
not that one. There was one like this Deerfield or something that's just past Strasburg that we had like 3 or something in like 2
Yeah.
months.
See, things seem to come in groups, like of
Yeah.
2, 3, or 4, and you run a string of them, and then that's it for a while.
Yeah, we had a high school senior that went hanging out at one of the quarries that probably wasn't legal.
Here by weather check, your facility, Rockingham CVA, here by weather check, Rockingham CVA. Weather check only, please. 1342.
And that's how we get dispatched. That's for our sister ship, Air Care 5 in Harrisonburg. They have a interfacility transfer that's pending right now. They want to ask and see if they can check the weather to make sure it's safe to go.
So it's a kind of a small, sideline to aviation, but it's a whole different world. You're not really participants in the normal airspace system, even though we fly in DC and places like that. We don't fly at the altitude, speeds, or routes that anybody else is really using. So
But we're lucky though when we do, they clear a path for us. So we get to fly right over Dulles.
Mhm.
That's the safest way to get through all that air traffic. So if we have a sick person, they make routes for us. You know the routes better than I do, but that's one of the main ones that we use. And one to Fairfax.
we use helicopter routes in cities sometimes to mitigate traffic conflicts.